Hello everyone, so I am doing a documentary on citizenship. So we are going to focus on TEKS 819E, which says summarize the criteria and explain the process for becoming a naturalized citizen of the United States. So I'm going to talk about how do we become U.S. citizens and what are the requirements. But before I do that, I'm going to tell you a little story of a family. But first, the question is, what is citizenship? Citizenship is the position or status of being a citizen of a particular country. And now this is where the story begins. So, in 1985, and I'm going to show you a little flashcard. I did like little flashcards, timeline based on this family. I am going to keep the family's name confidential. They did not want to put or expose their name. So I am going to keep their names confidential, and we're going to keep this documentary and their story sweet and simple. So this is why I have male and female symbols, husband and wife. So in 1985, the family decides that they deserve a better life and they want to move from their country, which is this right here. They leave their country for freedom. Not sure if you can see that. It says, yay, freedom. Everyone thinks of the States as the place to go for freedom, for liberty, and they decided that it was time to move from their home country to the States. So I draw a little picture here of mountains because this is their country. This represents their country. There's lots of mountains out there, very small houses. And then I draw water because, as we all know, everyone has to cross the border. And then I drew a sun because this represents hot days, cold nights, and sometimes even rainy days. So here I have 1985 continued. In 1985 of September, the family finally makes it to the States. This is when they finally get here. They start accommodating themselves. Mind you, the family does not know any English. Luckily, the family assisted a church in their hometown. And so because there is multiple churches, the church from their hometown refers them to a church here, a sister church here in Houston. And this is where the family basically lives for about 6 months. So this family is living off this church for about 6 months. Mind you, they don't know English. They don't have a family here, no job, no food, and they basically have to figure it out. Finding a job is the hardest thing for them to do because, again, they don't know any English. They don't have a home, so they're living basically off of the church. And now they have to find a job because now it's actually time for them to move out and find a place to live. It takes them about 3 years to find a stable job, and once they do, they get to purchase a 1-bedroom apartment through letter of recommendation from their job. Again, it's hard for them to stabilize themselves because at this point they're probably picking up certain words of English, but they don't know a lot. So because they're not making a lot of money, because back then it was not $7.25, it was basically cents what they used to make, they lived off of shelters. They used to go to shelters to get food, and one of the places that actually took them in, which is actually still opened, I researched, and is Casa Juan Diego. This shelter basically allowed them food, they allowed them, to come in and out, and this is how this family lived. And in 1989, this is the best part, this is where I talk about citizenship and how this family gets their citizenship and what were the requirements back then and what are the requirements now. So in 1989, President Reagan was in term, and because now the family is working and they have a stable job. Their employer writes them a letter of recommendation. This family goes to apply to get their citizenship, and the only thing that they had to do was basically know a little bit of English, have good morals, and answer 10 questions. That's all they had to do. As I researched on the requirements that we actually need now, basically the age, you must be 18 years of age, read, write, and speak basic English, be a good person, which this is stuff, that I already said that they needed back then, and, these are things that we still need now. They actually have to complete an interview. I personally don't know what the interview is because I don't have to go through that process, but they have to go through an interview, and then once they go through that interview, if they pass that interview, they have to receive a notice to take the oath of allegiance and then understanding the U.S. citizenship. This is all for my documentary. I just wanted to present the requirements that you needed, some of the requirements, and then I do have a little picture. It says 1998, but it was actually 1989. This is when the family receives their citizenship. They're very excited. They take their oath, and they are finally U.S. citizens. So this is it. I hope you've enjoyed this documentary, and I hope you've learned what citizenship is.